To distract the populace from their poverty, the oligarchic rulers of Nuceria held regular gladiatorial death matches in massive arenas, using cybernetically enhanced gladiators who battled to satisfy the endless bloodlust of the oppressed people. It was in this world that the Primarch Angron was eventually discovered. After his arrival, Angron was discovered by a slaver who chanced upon the battered and bleeding figure of the young Primarch surrounded by scores of alien corpses high in the northern Deshalika mountains. The young Angron had been badly wounded in the combat, but remained alive, taken as a slave by the planet's ruling masters, known as the High Riders. The young boy was brought to the Palace Praxica, the seat of the Rexium throne of the powerful Nucerian city-state of Deshea, where he was sold to the ruling clan, House Thalkia. Still a frightened young child, he was subsequently dumped into a pit consisting of a single ziggurat with hundreds of other slaves. Acid filled the pit, and to the cheers of the spectators, Angron was eventually forced to kill all around him to remain standing upon the ziggurat's uppermost platform and survive. Shedding a tear for the last time, Angron was proclaimed a promising newcomer to Deshea's arena combat. With the youth's obvious potential as a gladiator apparent, he was bought by the largest and most popular arena in the capital. The Primarch was given a name, Angron Thalkia, which meant Child of the Mountain, and was nursed back to health. The young Primarch quickly grew to a formidable size and was forced to take part in the gladiatorial games of Nuceria. After only a few solar months, Angron Thalkia had become a proud warrior of fearsome skill and even stronger sense of honor. Known to the crowds as the Lord of the Red Sands, he killed hundreds of other gladiators, but those who fought well, he always spared. Reaping many victories, Angron soon became a fan favorite of Deshea and came to be known as the Unbeaten. Although he seemed to enjoy the life of a gladiator and the adulation of the Deshean crowds, Angron secretly resented his slavery and was always plotting to escape. He proved to be a troublesome champion, prone to escape attempts whenever he saw an occasion, but such efforts always failed. During this time, Angron was mentored by an older gladiator named Ananias, who formed a deep bond with the younger gladiator and became somewhat of a father figure to the impressionable warrior. Together, the two formidable warriors slew a deadly tally in the gladiatorial arenas of Nuceria, which culminated in an astounding victory against a pair of berserk Angron that was surgically equipped with the deadly cybernetic implants known as the Butcher's Nails. Their momentous victory, however, proved short-lived, as the High Riders demanded that the two gladiators fight one another in a duel to the death. The fiery Angron refused and openly insulted his Nucerian masters. This resulted in Angron having the Butcher's Nails implanted as a form of punishment. These crude neural implants were hammered into the Primarch's skull and surgically grafted to his cerebral cortex. Relic devices from the dark age of technology. These cortical implants artificially boosted a warrior's adrenaline, resulting in greater strength and aggression in battle. However, they bleached a warrior's mind of all reason, all caution, all the instincts of mortality. The nails rewarded rage with spurts of electrochemical pleasure, tingling synapses, and killing enjoyment of everything else. No better machine for slaughter had ever been contrived by the minds of men. The cells below the massive arena were home to several thousand gladiators, all implanted with the Butcher's Nails, and Angron would soon take his place amongst them. Following the successful surgery, Angron was loosed upon Ananias and tore apart his friend in a blind berserk frenzy. Upon regaining his senses, Angron realized the horrible transgression he had committed against his mentor and was driven to such depth of despair that it was said that he unleashed a bestial howl that lasted for several solar days. The death of Ananias proved to be too much for Angron to bear, and he swore that one day he would make good his escape and make all the High Riders pay dearly. Within a few standard years, Angron's fame had spread to every corner of his home world. Under his training, the gladiators of his arena soon became the greatest the world had ever seen, and none could stand against them. Yet Angron also learned, following a final failed escape attempt, that he would never succeed alone. His unbending warrior's code and sheer combat skill had made him a well-respected leader amongst the other Dacian gladiators, and when the largest death games ever held on Nuceria were announced, Angron planned his most daring escape attempt. For these new games, Angron was allowed to stage a vast combat that would involve every gladiator of his arena. As the Dacian crowd drowned out the sounds of battle, Angron's gladiators turned on their armed guards, butchering them and fighting their way to freedom. Against the guards armed with firearms, the gladiators' casualties were grievous, but nearly 2,000 survived to escape into the streets of Dacia, stealing what weapons and supplies they could, before fleeing into the northern mountains where Angron had first been discovered. Over the next few years, the rulers of the world dispatched many armed forces to kill or recapture the rebel slaves, who soon named themselves the Eaters of Cities, but all were destroyed in turn by Angron's leadership, martial skill, and the cybernetically enhanced fury of the gladiators. But attrition and hunger slowly took their toll on the slaves, and eventually only 1,000 men and women remained. On a mountain named Fedan Moor, on a bleak spit of land known as the Dishalica Ridge, Angron and his forces were finally surrounded by no less than 7 large Nucerian armies. Not even a Primarch could stand against such sheer numbers. Yet it was at this time that the Emperor of Mankind came to Nuceria, drawn by the psychic emanations of his gene son, the Primarch. The Emperor had observed Angron secretly from orbit for many solar months, and had watched with pride as he had led his freed slaves in battle against the forces of tyranny. The Emperor and a small cadre of Legio Custodes descended to the world's surface, and after the shock of the August meeting had worn off on the Primarch, the Emperor offered Angron the leadership of the 12th Space Marine Legion, the Warhounds, which had been crafted from Angron's own genetic material, and a place at his side in the Great Crusade. To the Emperor's disbelief, Angron refused, claiming that his place remained with his fellow slaves amongst the Eaters of Cities, and he would die before deserting them. Reluctantly, the Emperor teleported back to his flagship, shocked at his son's refusal. Appraising the situation, the Emperor saw that for all of Angron's might as a Primarch and a leader, he would die in the coming battle, losing one of his irreplaceable sons to the assault of rabble on a backwater planet soon to be brought into imperial compliance was simply unacceptable. Bringing his flagship into low orbit over the world, the Emperor teleported Angron from the service against his will, away from the mountain of Fedan Moor and the battle of the Shalika Ridge. Without their leader, the morale of the gladiators was destroyed, and the next day they were slaughtered to the last warrior by the armies of Nucerian rulers. Angron watched helplessly from orbit as his brothers and sisters were quickly annihilated. Sensing his uncontrolled rage, the custodians surrounded Angron, their guardian spears pointed menacingly at the smoldering Primarch. In a fit of sudden violence, Angron killed one of the custodians, but the Emperor intervened, and the Primarch was forced into a state of submission by the Emperor's potent psychic abilities. Angron asked his father why he had not intervened to save the lives of his comrades on the planet below, but the Emperor dismissed the question as lacking vision. He was the Emperor of Mankind, and he possessed a much grander vision for human life, such as reuniting the galaxy on behalf of all humanity. He had little concern for a small group of former slaves battling a group of petty tyrants on a backwater world. The Emperor expressed his hope that in time, Angron would come to understand his actions and why he had done what he did. Angron replied that he had been meant to die alongside his comrades on Nuceria, and now only a ghost remained. The Emperor replied that a ghost would suffice for what he had planned for his son. Allowing his fellow gladiators to die was a deed Angron would never forgive the Emperor for, and a stain upon the Primarch's honor that would never fade, but fester into a soul-deep wound. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more.